Ko tiamana te whakapaparanga mai, engari ko Aotearoa te turanga waiwai. Ko Johanna Zellmer toko ikoa. Welcome. My name is Johanna Zellmer. I'm a jeweler, educator, and a current PhD candidate at Massey University. I'm facilitating today's debate, and the debate is called The Body is a Draft. This event is also going to inform my current creative PhD studies about the agency of contemporary jewellery to defy biotechnological governance. So this interdisciplinary debate is designed to question perceptions of identity informed by art, genomics, and jewellery. And I've used this slide to have a bit of a slither of each of those represented. We have formed two debating teams to react to the proposition that the body is a draft. To my right, Craig, Ian, and Andrea, currently sitting here debating that the body is a draft. And to my left, we have Louisa, Andrew, and Ihi, at this point in time sitting here to debate that the body is not a draft. So each panel member will introduce themselves with a single slide, like the one behind me, and a statement that is positioning their argument. Very briefly for 3 minutes, but given that there is 7 of us, that will already take about 20 minutes all told. So we're going to do that in the following order. We're starting with Craig, then we're jumping over to Louisa, then Ian, then Andrew, then Andrea, and Ihi. So then at that time, we'll have about 20 minutes left. No, we will not. I'm totally wrong. At that time, we will have 40 minutes left. And so the subsequent 20 minutes after the initial slides, we've dedicated to a free-flowing debate where the individual panel members from both teams will react to any of the introductory positions. And so there's no order, there's no me sitting saying, what do you think about that? They're just going to free-flowing say what comes to their minds at the time. There's very few rules, as conversation we feel is paramount. And as we all know, identity is complex, so any fruitful discussion requires an interdisciplinary approach, and that includes you, the audience. So we've put aside the final 15 to 20 minutes for your participation and input, and there is going to be a microphone that can be, as you speak or wish to speak, raise your hand, you will receive a microphone. As you probably know, and if you didn't, you will be now informed that this event is live recorded. So you need the microphone to speak, otherwise in the recording, no one will hear what the question was. So what this is me, finish. We're starting with Craig Hilton, here to my right. Craig has the predicament at the moment that he's got a very unreliable voice. So he has pre-recorded a voice recording of his introduction, and we have got a slide, which we can now go to Craig, please. And we will listen to his 3-minute Craig introduction. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Craig Hilton. Apologies for the video. Sometimes I have trouble with my voice, so I pre-recorded just in case. I was trained as a scientist but went to art school. So this means that these conversations are of great interest to me. So thank you very much for the opportunity to the conference organizers. Thank you, Joe, as well. And this is an image of Sahelanthropus judensis, an ancestor of ours that was a common ancestor with gorillas. So when the human line and the gorilla line separated, and the other image is of Stelarc and his work, The Third Hand. So anyway, let's consider the facts. The facts that are as plain as our draft noses on our draft faces. Our bodies are absolutely a draft, not a blank slate, but definitely a draft, and not a good one at that, an insufficient and outdated model for sure. It seems that to function in our current environment, we must augment and accessorize this draft body of ours in multiple ways. We don't have time to listen, but for instance, this body is no longer equipped to even eat raw food. Who here has not eaten some food today that in order to eat it, need to be denatured first, i.e. made digestible by fire? We, unlike pigs, a close relative of ours, cannot easily digest a potato, let alone a lamb shank. On another note, who here arrived at this event as our prehistoric ancestors intended us to be? We sapiens must adorn ourselves often with the skins and fibers of other animals literally better suited to their environments. Downstream of this clothing necessity, and because we can no longer easily wave our genitalia around, seriously hamstringing our attempts at attracting a suitable mate, we must show off our virility in other ways, by high fashion, by jewellery, perhaps by driving a red sports car, or like myself, you may have when you turn 50, instead of being crass and buying a sports car, being of a more elevated mind, you purchase for yourself an espresso machine that just looked like a sports car. Perhaps to increase your reproductive opportunities, you draw pictures and hang them on the wall, much like our ancestors did on their cave walls to impress a potential mate, demonstrating they're so efficient at hunting and gathering, resulting in lots of downtime at the end of the day that they had time to dabble in a bit of art. Or perhaps you are more the type to outsource the drawing to others, demonstrating your excess resources by buying art and hanging it on the wall or wearing it around your neck. To impress your dinner guests / potential mates. We wear pacemakers, watches, smart gizmos, CRISPR-mediated genetic augmentations may be just around the corner. Yay. Can you name any technology that has been invented but not used? What is possible, it seems, is also inevitable. Thus, we are cyborgs by necessity. Our bodies are a draft. With each new tech invention, we become more dependent on gadgets. Natural selection used to apply to the rather slow genetic changes that gave us an advantage or not. But now nature selects those with the best augmentations, leaving the biological body to somewhat stagnate. Darwin help us, should this tech ever go away, and we should be left with this rather inadequate draft soft body of ours that has not been properly tested in many generations. Thank you.
So now we have Louisa.
Aotearoa, tapir last, and thank you. Opportunity. So I work as an artist, an artistic anatomist, and an educator. And I actually think our bodies are miracles. Anyway, whakapapa for me, I come from travellers. I feel my ancestors' spirits these days, but I really don't have a particular maunga or ara or moana. At the moment, I actually connect most deeply with the stars of, as Hugh and I heard recently, the celestial dome above us. And the stars have been there before I was born, they'll be there after I was gone. We're all connected to that beyond our bodies, beyond our skin, to the cosmos and to atoms of the stars. And then I kind of want to touch on energy, quantum physics. Vibrations are in every part of our cell, right down to the teeniest quarks, to the greatest flares spewed from stars. Vibrations are everywhere, moving invisible forces beyond and within us. Resonance, I like that word. Sound. Electricity, are we in phase or out of phase with the beyond? Can we manipulate energy? Can we have divine balance? Is absolute stillness where God is?
Just grab that. I think it's not quite plugged in.
Is that good?
Hope so.
Is that good? So drawing, I love to draw. And drawing helps me explain. I didn't always draw. I was a scientist before I went back into the whole artistic mode, really. And I find it most satisfying. It connects me it connects the beyond to the within. And I love teaching it. I demystify the process. I teach others to use it as a way to connect. Drawing is action. It can solve problems. It can inspire. Our minds take us beyond, and drawing can help bring it back in. Creativity Well, actually, for me, I've been quite affected by the dark events, I call them, of the past 3 years. And they've compelled me to new actions and to focus on being creative. And surprisingly for me, really, I am now actively seeking what I consider God to be. And I wish my children to... I think that I'm only going to get there by walking the walk. They don't really want me to download on them too much, like good children don't. But I want them to recognise and resist tyrannical power. I want them to perceive what's important, which is to me, including community, and look for connections, not differences. Connections also go beyond our skin, beyond our body, beyond the draft. I want them to cultivate the garden they want and to give and receive with love. Jewellery adornment works for me as any object, close or far away, affects our resonance. So again, from the beyond to the on. Rocks are the final thing I want to touch on, because rocks are mana and witness and power. They resonate, they absorb. Even just at the market this morning, a woman was selling hemp charcoal, and she was talking about how that can absorb energy in a room. But two particular inspiring rocks for me include the Rongo rock in Dunedin, which is the rock of remembrance at Aotearoa, and it honours peacemakers, peaceful resistance to tyrannical power. It has mana, that rock. Another rock that I am learning about is the An Lea Fal, the stone of destiny, which is the Celtic holy relic. And the true stone is most likely a black, dense meteorite, not the one that got sent down to Westminster in London for many years, hundreds of years. And this black meteorite was honoured by many, including Columba. He helped preserve the true message of Christianity. That rock is a witness. And so finally, I just kind of say to you, be the grit that makes the pearl. And ars longa, vita brevis. Art is long, life is short.
Kia ora.
Brings us to Ian.
Definitely a draft. A draft to do with whatever we wish. The Oxford Dictionary definition of a draft is a first or preliminary form subject to revision. In the performing arts, my spiritual and actual home, as an arts academic at Otago University and also a practitioner, we continually use the body as a prop that is chock full of potential, a malleable, transformative and enormously communicative means to an end. We adorn, we amend, we alter, we basically mess with our physical bodies in a myriad of different ways in order to help convey whatever messages about ourselves and the world that we are striving to put across through music, theatre and dance. In a performing arts context, the body, our bodies, are as much a prop as any other element of a stage set or mise-en-scène. My personal introduction to this concept and its enormous communicative and transformative potential was the artist often referred to as rock and roll's chameleon, David Bowie. A trained mime artist with a terrific awareness of his body, long before he was a rock star. David Bowie used costuming, makeup, gesture, hairstyle, careful and calculated manipulation of his voice, the bending of gender, to use the terminology of the day, and any other tactic that he could possibly exploit in order to transform his body into a conduit for whatever message he wished to convey at any given time. Now, I brought a prop along, because props are always fun. This kind of thing. Now, I have quite a few pairs of these kind of things, and a hire service, should you be interested. I can send them to you in a plain brown envelope, if you prefer. A truly interdisciplinary artist, the changes that Bowie would undergo, which were hitherto, before he brought them into rock and roll, were considered to be theatrical devices or techniques, would then be reflected seamlessly in whatever musical style best suited his goal, be it glam rock, Philadelphia soul, ambient and electronic, Drum and bass, industrial, you name it, David Boddy embodied in not only his sound but his vision, to paraphrase one of his well-known songs. More than this, both his sound and vision, his constructed image, frequently reflected his geographical location, be it the glam rock image of Ziggy Stardust in early 1970s UK, the Philadelphia soul boy image of his mid-70s Young Americans phase, or the cold, stark environs of Berlin during the low/heroes era. Through manipulation of his body, as well as the other allied factors, David Bowie travelled and took his fans along for the ride, far beyond his corporeal limitations. In my own far more modest performance career, I have done the same. So yes, to my mind, the body most certainly is a draft, but a draft you can have a lot of fun with.
Brings us to Andrew, thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Andrew Schellinger-Ho. I think I'm the dullest person here, and I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but hopefully I can keep you amused for the next 3 minutes. I'm actually from Nelson. I'm hoping that's going to be my trump card if there's going to be... so it's lovely to be back in my own hometown. So I work in medical research, and I'm arguing today that our body is not a draft. We've all evolved to be complete individuals, and I think one of the medical models at the moment is that we are individuals. So rather than treating us as a mass, we all get personalised or individualised treatment nowadays in medicine. And for example, I do a lot of work on cancer. Every cancer is different. Every person with cancer is different. Their environment that they live in is different. And so we're learning to treat people quite differently, and they get their own personalised and individualised treatment. We have already evolved enormously in our lifetime, over the last thousands of years. We're unlikely to mate with any Neanderthals in the next little while, although, Craig, you might find some on Mount Arthur when you go tramping. And I guess what we're also learning is the importance of our environment, things that are around us that affect our health and well-being. And living in a lovely environment like Nelson, compared to where I live in Auckland, the stress levels are much lower, and I'm sure people are happier and healthier that live in this part of the world. We know the environment is playing an increasing role in our well-being. We know that, for example, that we could eliminate large numbers of cancer just by changing the way we live, levels of stress, our diet, and all sorts of things in our environment. Most of them are unpalatable. And most of us wouldn't want to make those changes and live that healthy. We'd rather take pills and take prescriptions. But our genome is in some ways fairly well fixed, and a lot of the things we're dealing with at the moment. In fact, some of our genome is going backwards. By keeping people alive with heart disease and cancer and all sorts of neurological conditions, allowing them to reproduce, our genomes are getting worse than what they were a few years ago. So in some ways we're going backwards. The concept of whakapapa is really important in medical research. It's not just our DNA that we pass on from generation to generation. It's also the environment that we live with and our whānau around us. We are living in exciting times where things are really changing and developing very quickly. When I first began medical research about 30 years ago, we knew no link between disease and genes. We knew it existed, and now there are thousands of examples of where we can understand what the disease is and find an individualised treatment by understanding what the genes are involved in that particular disease. I like the link to jewellery. Jewellery, I understand, is not always perfect. Or is it? Maybe some of you guys do make perfect jewellery. And so what we see at jewellery that might be passed on from generation to generation is also like our whakapapa. There may be some mistakes in there somewhere, but we've more or less got to a perfect state, and therefore I argue that our body's not a draft. We've got to the end of the road, more or less.
Andrea.
Tēnā koutou, ko Andrea Takuingo. I'm a contemporary jeweller and I'm a lecturer. And I feel that my role here partly is to keep trying to bring it back to jewellery. So, the body is a draft. And though we've had people talking about this idea that it's not changing, and people saying it can be changed quite fast, I want to think about how jewellery can change, really change the body, in certain ways. So it's a popular myth that we totally renew ourselves every 7 to 10 years, and that used to be the excuse for when we used to play, beam me up, Scotty, and then everyone said, oh, you can't really do that, because if you do that, of course, you're going to be dead, and all your cells that are renewed in Star Trek are going to be a new person or a new draft of you. But then we realised, our cells change every 7 to 10 years anyway, so aren't we a new cell? Well, not all our cells change, actually. Some of our neurons in our cerebral cortex stay the whole of our lives, but there is slow change going on, like a continuous flux, and even those bits that are not changing in terms of renewing and becoming something totally different are responding to external stimuli. What causes us to change over time is just cell replication going on that's becoming mutated, or misinformation going from cell to cell as it replicates itself? Or is there an influence of the objects we surround ourselves with? So, can jewellery actually change us and make us a new draft? That's a big responsibility as jewellers. So if we were to adopt the ideas of extended mind theory, which is this idea that says that the human mind is actually not limited in the body or in the brain, but is located in the body, in society, our culture, and in the objects we surround ourselves with, then jewellery does have a role to play. Jewellery can encourage movement, ritualistic and repetitive, rewiring neural pathways in the process, cementing placebo results. It can remind us to breathe, and this is why I used this beautiful image of a work of Mary Curtis's. It can remind us to breathe in certain rhythms, which stimulate the different arms of the autonomic nervous system, causing release of different chemicals in our bodies, impacting stress levels, and hence well-being. And in some cases, triggering specific expressions of genes, which we are finding can become inherited in subsequent generations. Memory impacts the body, and jewellery is a container for memory. We can wear jewellery pieces that monitor our bodies and improve health outcomes. If using extended mind theory lens to look at jewellery and the world, jewellery can contribute eloquently to the slow draft movement as the body incrementally reinvents itself. Therefore, the body is a draft.
Last but not least, Ihi.
O tēnā tātou, mo tēnā mahi te whakawātea o tātou hui e tātou nei, mihi karanga. He mihi karanga kia koutou hoki. Mo te manaaki tangararu e te tuanui o tēnei whare. There's a long way of saying thanks for turning up. I think you're dodging. I think if you're all here, you're meant to be doing the dishes or mowing the lawn because it's Saturday morning. Look at some of you, you don't mow your lawns. I'm not sure why I got brought along, and our mate here, she's German, and I got to her a little bit at the start, and I said, what's the debate about again? And she, oh. And something happened too here with this fella recording his thing and putting it up. That's so he didn't make any mistakes. So I know what he's up to. There's nothing wrong with his voice. I was going to bring a walking stick to make you feel sorry for me too. Feel that? That's not a draft. Back there's my wife sitting just there. I've been practicing making drafts with her for quite a while. And I'm pretty bloody happy with what I got. So, a couple of things. Because of our background as Māori, I'm not going to try and talk these fellas down. I don't think that's a good idea. But my daughter said to me, Dad, there's a way you can do it. You cough and you say something at the same time. And then she showed me, she went, bullshit. I said, I don't think that's how you do it. I think you join the two together. But I'm going to try it halfway through there, and I definitely won't be changing sides of the room because these are my mates, so I'm staying right here. There's a couple of things that I've got to throw across to you. I put this photo up because I've had 20 fractures over my time, and this is definitely not a draft here. This is it. So I just keep putting it back together and carrying on. The other thing I wanted to do was to draw on my face and show you this isn't a draft either. This came from my whakapapa from the past, and I dragged it into the future to right now. What you see on my face is the two lines or the two marks on my jaw here. I wasn't going to bring this out until later in case I needed a big gun, but I'll hit you with it now since he recorded his one. So the two pieces on the side of my jaws here, one is te whiro nui and the other one's Aotearoa. These are the two axes that were used to cut the arms from Rangi to stop him reaching for his wife. And why that happened was that when they were separated, light came in and we knew our world. And so it was to educate people. So when my jaw moves, it's supposed to mean that I'm educating you. Nod your heads. Tell me you're feeling this. That's no draft. Now the lines around my mouth is meant to be that the ones closest to my mouth is when I talk on behalf of my family. The next one's out, I speak sometimes on behalf of my iwi. Next one out is that I can speak for Māori when I'm not here, and the ones furthest out is when I speak to Baka, because you fellas are hard to talk to. And so I've got to have those ones there to accentuate what I am saying so that you can see it. And the scrolls on my nose is that I breathe all this information and I express it out here, my jaw moves, and you're meant to be educated and enlightened. So today we're going to enlighten you that the body, which one am I supposed to be again? Oh, yeah, I'm with my mates over here. Okay, the body's not a draft.
Well, thank you, all of you. I am so glad I'm sitting right in the middle, because I could easily sit on either of these empty chairs right now and kind of feel quite happily part of this team or that team. And so I'm staying in the middle. I'm the facilitator. That is very good. Fence sitter. Indeed, that is what I'm happily doing today.
I think you'll find, Craig, she directed this way and said that was very good.
Indeed.
Bullshit.
So we are moving into the free debate. Thank
right,
you,
right.
Ihi. And I'm going to sit back down in the middle here and see whether one of either of these team members, or potentially already someone who's very much on the edge of their seats going, I can't believe I just heard that, and I definitely want to have to say something about that. There's chairs, there's a microphone. We are opening the free debate in kind of going, well, actually, you know, what I just heard is not sitting right with me, or actually you made me think. I had a very firm position up to now, and this has happened in our previous Zoom meetings. I tell you, actually, I think I want to be on your team now. So, open to the free flow. Who has something to say?
Well, Andrew, I was just thinking about your conversation about the personal medicine, which I understand does make it sound like bodies like are individual and are staying the same. But we're also then discovering that if that medicine needs to be personalised in that way, and that it can actually change, you talked about it, change our genome changing and that, doesn't that talk to the body as a draft and its ability to change?
If we have disease in our body, that's usually a consequence of a disease process, but our DNA doesn't change in our body at this time. Every time a cell divides, it's believed there's one mistake happens, and most of those mistakes happens in the wilderness of our DNA and has no effect, but occasionally it does. So that yes, there is some change in evolution as things grow and develop, but when disease happens, whether it's neurological problem, cardiac problem, cancer, things don't change too much, and that personalised medicine is either going to work or it's not going to work.
I've got a good follow-up question for that, Andrew. It just made me thought, you mentioned the wilderness of the DNA, and so you're referring to non-coding regions, right? What do you think that wilderness is for if it's not for providing opportunity for our drafts to be improved and all this sort of extra DNA we seem to have?
Yeah, so the so-called junk DNA we know is not junk DNA and is involved in disease processes in ways we don't completely understand.
So you should sit over here.
Do you want me to cough and do that? Okay, I can do that.
Can we just
Time out.
disqualification on ethical grounds? I think we're feeling a little ahead at the moment, so we're waiting on the other team.
Okay, right. So here we go again. I'm on this. Yeah, we're the draft side. So
No, we're not drafting.
oh no, we're the other side. One of the things that we've been thinking about a lot lately as we delve into the area of envirophysiology. My area is working on, I'm connected with this fellow in some ways, epidemiology, biostats, population health. That's my background, is in that space. But what I've been doing is working in the environment. And in my work in the environment, we reconnect to atua. You know, you have a god of the ocean, you have a god of the forest. And from those spaces there, what we've discovered is the body has nothing to do with health. Well-being is a direct reflection of what the environment intends us to be. So I would say emphatically that the body is not a draft.
Well done, eh?
Because we're what we're intended to be as atua tell us to be. And what you see in front of you is a consequence of going into the environment, investigating those places and coming back and being what we're supposed to be already. Drop the mic.
So, oh, sorry, were you going to say go?
Yeah, look, I've got this qualm of nervousness at the base of my spine. Is that where you get a qualm of nervousness? I'm not sure. And that is because I'm on the, yes, the body is a draft, but I've got this niggling notion. Keep your draft to yourself. So David Bowie's back in the conversation. Although I love the fact that he used to change all the time, and I do that a lot and mess with my look and so forth, and I'm sure a lot of you, I can tell a lot of you do. One of his finest moments, some of you may know this, some of you may not, was when he played the role on Broadway of John Merrick, who was known as the Elephant Man, and he was a sideshow freak in the Coney Island sideshow. He had what were considered to be massive deformities, and David Bowie took on the role, the serious role, as an actor. He was an actor, of course, you all know that, as well as a pop star. And the actor who'd played John Merrick on Broadway before David Bowie had used prosthetics. David Bowie, with his awareness of his body and how to manipulate his body, he did it without any prosthetics at all, just wearing kind of like a cloth, otherwise naked. He used his body, and people were blown away by the fact that he was able to use his body. None of the adornments you'd usually associate with David Bowie.
Isn't David Bowie dead? Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah. So, perhaps the most impressive moment of Bowie's career for me is when he was completely unadorned, just with almost his almost naked body, playing this role. So, in that sense, his body was perfect for that. So, yeah, I've got that niggling. Maybe it's not a draft. Perhaps it is perfect, or we'd evolve to as far as we're going to go, like Andrew said.
Oh, you're coming this side.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's why. Perhaps I'll sit where Joe is.
Well,
in the middle.
can I suggest that both
Come on over,
Ian
come on over.
and E change positions, and we are having Andrea's. Let's do that, because I know that Ihi looked at me several times, not only today, am I which team I'm on, because previous to coming onto the live debate, he was debating both sides quite fluently and used the same argument he used today for the opposite team. So why don't we swap Ian and
I'm good with that. I'm going to take my boot though. I'm not going to give up on the boot.
Okay, I'll come over.
And Andrea.
Oh, now it's
Well, I was
4-2.
really... I was
I'm not
really
leaving my mates.
He's grounded. I was just thinking, I wonder if that idea that we are already perfect has quite a lot of the religious overtone of man-made in God's image. And I also wonder if it isn't taking into account that maybe our ability to make things and make things work for us and to develop our mind in such a way that it does sit within objects that sit outside the body, that actually might be part of being the animal we are, and maybe the ability to change ourselves is part of the animal we are. And so that ability to constantly change and evolve faster than the slow idea of evolution, but actually even within our lifetimes our body evolved, is part of being a human. It is being human.
Yeah, so I can jump both ways too, and I get confused sometimes about the debate moot. And that's because this whole, I agree, Andrea, the whole idea of being human, if I, sitting there, I mean, we could all make the sound, and we're all connected by this resonant sound that's beyond. I'm tuning in to stuff beyond me, into me, and then I push out again. And there's so much that is beyond me. I mean, I'm sure, you can walk down the street, you can feel a scary area. What's a feel of a scary area? That's the beyond that I'm sensing in. Yes, and then it does affect my body's a draft, to be honest. But there is some also in my body that is already immutably me. So it's kind of this confusing bothness, isn't there?
Not a blank slate, but
Want
a
to
draft.
sit here. Not a blank slate.
So now that Ian's on our side,
Symbolic win.
Yep.
Symbolic win here.
so were each of Bowie's sort of identities, were they a draft or were they close to a draft?
Yeah, a very fully fleshed out and well thought out and intelligently compiled draft.
There's another issue too, that if you're talking about the idea of humans per se, that we're in the epoch of the Anthropocene, aren't we? And we're destroying the place. So talking about humans in that hierarchy as the dominant feature here might be flawed in its own right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're in another space now where we're needing to look at what environment's telling us, and it's sending a few messages, and we're disregarding those. So not only are we taking the symbolic one, but I can get you another chair over here. And you can start to come this way. Craig chose to record his earlier, so he's on his own over there. But I think we're maybe missing the point that we should be considering what environment's telling us first. Yeah, Nelson.
Yeah.
Come on, give me one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at Nelson, in the market, and there are all these people who are doing great stuff with the environment, really doing positive work to try and counter where we are. Big picture. Is it humans or is it the corporates we need to dampen down?
But is corporates not an extension of being human?
I don't think so.
But
I think
we
they're
did
an
it.
antithesis.
We made it.
Well, not all of us did.
No, and so maybe it's about the dominance of a certain part of yourself,
Agreed.
and we need to draft up, desperate here, the part of us that is going to listen to the environment and that is going to respond in a caring way, rather than, and actually, no, I've got it. And that is the part of the extended mind, and the idea that society and culture actually forms part of the mind and develops it, you can look at very specific cultures and go, well, they have said individualism and this and this and this is more important, and it's come down through multiple generations, 2 or 3 generations, and suddenly that is seen as being part of the identity. But it is only one option of identity. And so then we could draft in another option and build it into the body. We have a question from the audience.
Another question over here too. So
cool.
there's the two from the audience.
Good. Let's move into, please. Yes.
It's not really a question. It's just if the body is a draft, doesn't that mean we've got the ability to change, which is what we actually need to do in order to fix the terrible things that we have done?
There is a new technology called gene editing, so we can fix some of those mistakes.
And you can use CRISPR, which is very fast.
Yeah.
But what about the concept of being human as the problem in itself, like as distinct from the environment?
But what about community? A well-functioning community that includes humans I don't see that as a problem. I see that as a celebration, a well-functioning community that cares for and connects all people within a group. There's no exclusion.
But why just people?
Yeah,
No, exactly. Communities, environment, everything. Anyway, on you go.
Can I ask a question? The sense of the environment. So even if we're looking at physically, like we're eating stuff, we're like breathing stuff, we're shedding stuff, we're constantly like pulling stuff in and out of ourselves. And like the draft may be that the environment's like impinging on us and like it's kind of forming us and informing us, and we don't listen enough to it, and we're kind of making this jewellery and things like that, and I don't know what I'm doing with that. But it's just, kind of like, isn't the environment the thing which is drafting us? If it's, or we're perfect, I don't know.
It might be drafting us out of existence. I mean, Andrew already thinks we're kind of stagnating.
Hey, how many atua can you name for me? Do you know what atua are? Yell out which atua you know. Tell me an atua. Papatua nuku tangaroa. Can a god die? And I don't use God as in pre-wehenga or creationism. I'm talking about post-wehenga, where we have all these environmental science. Can a god die?
If you don't believe in it enough, does it lose power?
If you stop talking about them, they do.
Like
Which means if we
Tinkerbell.
stop talking about our environment, it forgets about us and moves forward, and we keep destroying it because it's something beyond us that we don't care about or have a connection with anymore. And that's what I think is happening.
We've got a
You
problem
need a
here.
chair up here, or are you okay back there? This
We're
is going
all
badly, Craig. I just want to point that out.
We're all starting to agree, unfortunately.
I'm not. I just want to ask: is there a human condition that we're treating the whole world as a draft, and that's in human nature is just treating everything as a draft that can be changed endlessly?
Absolutely not for us.
No.
As Māori, our past defines what our now is. We don't look to the future. Everything we need to know, we've seen. Very likely, but not Māori.
Well, there's those de-extinction programs, because the billionaires like going to Mars, making themselves immortal, and bringing back mammoths.
All together? From Mars, mammoths from Mars, yeah.
They were a great band.
I think sometimes we analyze too much and we don't think anymore what we really should do or would like to do. And for him saying he isn't a canvas, I went to a convention in Tahiti with the most fabulous tattoos, especially on bottoms down the legs. So you are the perfect canvas for me. And the other thing is I was a few years ago in an ice age cave in Germany. And there were objects found 35,000 years old. Lovely mammoth carving in ivory mammoths. a Venus, a woman. Picasso couldn't do that. There was no art school around, nothing. But somehow he expressed his feelings, how he scraped it, what he did, I don't know. But I was standing, I get goosebumps now telling this, in this cave with light coming from above. It wasn't smelly, it wasn't a bad feeling being in there. I was overwhelmed. Somebody, a fellow, man or woman, was there making beautiful things. And if we wouldn't have these things, there would be no life to us. We need them. Please don't analyze. Make something.
My question is around perfection. I always get the creeps whenever somebody tells me that humans are perfect for the reasons that you mentioned about what we're doing to nature. But also, we change our minds all the time. And isn't the mind part of the body? If the mind is not just in the brain, but it's all over the body, then we are imperfect because we're constantly changing and evolving, and that's a good thing. Like, change is the only constant. So I'm with the draft people. But also because, you know, it'd be nice to think that you can get better and be better. But I don't know, like if you guys think that the body's already perfect, then are we done?
That was really good.
Yeah. I agree with you too. The body is not perfect, but I guess it's an aim. But you can only aim towards by including all. And all is beyond the body. It's not just the body.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, we carry a lot of imperfections, but we may not still be a draft, is what I'm trying to present. Just like jewellery's got flaws, our DNA's got flaws, our body's got flaws, our mind's got flaws. Yeah, we're not perfect.
I guess the problem is who determines what's an imperfection and what's not. We can leave it to the geneticists.
There was a question right at the back, I saw.
Hello? Hello? Oh, yeah, I guess it's similar to what someone was saying on the other side of the room about, the kind of, I guess we haven't really brought social media or that kind of thing into this discussion yet. And I think that is something that, you know, we think we can try all these different drafts out, right? We can have all these different personas, we can have all these different filters, and that makes us think that, oh, this body is a draft. And actually, maybe we should be really thankful for the bodies that we have, and this idea that, oh, this is it. And that's something that I think objects and jewellery can do, in that it grounds us in ourselves and having those memories of what actually is important. And also, that what we do, you know, we join all these groups because they're all about, you know, helping the environment. And then we forget to recycle. Whoops. You know, it's like, because we have this idea, this persona that is a draft, that maybe we think is real out on the internet, and we forget actually that this is our body, this is our skin, we should be thankful for it. And also that what we do with it is really important. So I don't know. But I just thought that was something that we hadn't really spoken to yet.
Maybe just taking exactly what you've said, but maybe slightly turning it, if I understood what you were saying correctly, is maybe the idea that the body is a draft, and that rather than seeing that as a strength only or just as fun, but also as a vulnerability, because that means that that draft can be changed, that either strengthens its world, its community, its whatever, or could also be weakened and weaken its community, its world, its environment. And so the body as draft is not necessarily good or successful, it just is a draft. And we then have responsibilities to how that goes forward. Maybe. In our jewellery. I don't know. Terrifying.
I'm glad we brought up social media because Louisa talked about vibrations before, but nowadays we call them notifications.
And you can turn vibrate on or off, can't you? Yeah.
Kia ora. I'm interested at the point in which a draft stops being a draft. We're in a room with a whole lot of creators, and I'd put the question as to whether or not in deciding to put something up on display, you're actually certain that it has achieved perfection. And I think I'd argue that both sides are wrong, and that we are in a drafting process, but it's the conscious choice. And when we step outside into the perception of the wider world and of the environment, as you're all up on stage, we are taking you in your whole imperfections and not as finalized products that may still change. And I'd ask anyone to take a look at David Bowie in one of his many iterations and say that was not a finalized piece of art.
Indeed, and our perceptions, our responses are different in a room. I'm sure everyone would respond differently to any one persona that Bowie put forward.
I think one of the big challenges to our identity and perhaps homogenisation of identity and our role in society coming up in the next little while is artificial intelligence. I think it's going to be a powerful force for making us all very homogenous and us losing our uniqueness in life, because we've now got the ability to do things that don't often give us an identity, that things are going to look very bland and normal and correct a lot of the time, just because we can plug stuff into a chat GPT and it spews out something that's incredibly intelligent, informative, and beyond I guess a baseline of most of society in terms of its being reasonable, sensible and true.
Yeah, what is true?
I just wondered, does the perspective on this debate change if you say, is my body a draft as an individual, as you as an individual, not humanity as a whole? So is my body a draft from the moment I'm born to the moment I die? I've got the same genes. Perhaps my adornment of jewellery as a 5-year-old changes thing. I just wonder, is it a different perspective, and what you had to say about that?
Yeah, I haven't spoken for a while. I'm still stuck over here. I'm not the fastest thinker. I'll have a go at getting back to you, but one of the things that we talk about when we carve is that it's already there. We remove the other parts that you don't need to see to bring out what was already there. And I've often thought about that, the idea of bringing to life those aspects is important as well. And a lot of people say to me, that thing on your face, did you get drunk in Thailand? And I said, no, this is from here. I got arrested for this the other day out of interest. I'm just going the sympathy card here. This is good. I didn't get arrested, I just thought I'd throw that out there. But so I felt sorry for him before, but I came back over here because he was sitting on his own.
The arrest on record.
I was thinking about one of the policies around personhood. And you know, the idea of the Whanganui River having personhood, in the forest over by Tūhoi, Te Uruwera having personhood. I think that's a step down. What they wanted to give it was atuatanga, so that it became another level beyond humans. And that the information we needed for that river to be recognised is already there. There's no draft policy from government that's going to change that. And to try and turn that into a personhood, I thought that was shit. What was your question again? I'm very glad you asked that question. Andrew?
Yep. If I was to answer that honestly, it'll have to change sides. So yes, we do change. We do change with time. Every time a cell divides, a mistake happens in our DNA. So if that happens in the wrong place, and Craig was talking about junk DNA before, if it's in the wilderness, it's fine. Happens in an important gene, that might be the beginning of disease. I know.
But also, I think, as we talked about, you know, the types of pressures that are around us or we put on ourselves can make our genes express differently. So the gene hasn't changed, but it's expressing in a different way that causes changes in our body. Yeah.
Ko Aotearoa, ko te awa ko au. Ko roa. So I'm just going to go out there with whatever comes off my tongue, because I'm still, well, I know my body is not a draft, but I also understand, you know, in how it could be how it is a draft as well. When I think about the idea of my body, if I see my body as a draft, I see my environment as a draft, and it's not necessarily a negative or a positive. But when I think about when I go up to my back hill, it takes me about 2 hours to walk up to the top, and that's where I'll find peace from the world. If I go up along the road track, it's just pine. The feeling that my body goes through is I'm dry. I need water. There's no life. When I go when I go up through the native, right at the top of the hill, along the ridge line, I can feel the moisture in the soil. Sometimes the mist comes to meet me, and I welcome. So my son, he's a bit of our haututu, and that's where I take him when we need to have a real conversation. And this one time, he had done something, and I took him up with a rākau, and it was sunny as we were getting up, and as we got to the top, before we were to head into this forest area, the mist just came. By the time we got to where the parachuters jump off, we were just surrounded in the kohu. And he was running around, and I was like, I can't see you. You're only 2 meters away. How does that speak to my body as a draft, or my body is not a draft? I'm not sure. I got lost when Rohan spoke, because I thought that was really relevant to the discussion. Maybe it's not neither wrong or right. It's neither this or that. I think that whole idea is a colonial one, because I can agree with elements of all kōreros that are presented to us. So I'm still trying to understand what the debate is, but and to make sense. But ko waia hau isn't a question about who I am. It is I am water. I come from the heavens. I am of the earth. I am of the stars. I am infinite, but I am a face of many that have gone before and that are yet to come. And so for me, the importance is not whether our body is a draft or not. It is, like our kaumātua, what are we ensuring so that we have a future? How are we supporting those to come? And Māori ora.
Kia ora. I 100% agree that this isn't a competition, but this side's definitely winning. There's some other things that our mate probably didn't realise when she stands up to speak, and she did it first thing this morning, is that she'll reflect the places that have made her the way she is. When she said, quote, the awa, we have a nature of expressing where we're from without knowing we're doing that. If we're from mountains, we'll reflect that through the patience we have to wait until change will happen. If we're from the river, we're heading in a direction, and we'll continue in that way, and you can come with us, or we'll go around you, or if we have to, we'll go over you, but we're heading that way. If you're from the coast, then you tend to change your mind every 12 hours. I'm not going to go into that one there, but what tends to happen is that when people stand up to speak, and you know this about Māori, all of you have been around Pohiri, that we stand up and we introduce ourselves as a river and a mountain. That's permanency. That's no draft. We know who we are. And that's why we say those things right at the start, is to convey an idea to you of what you can expect from us and the way we're going to engage with you. And if I tell you I'm from the coast, expect me to change when the tide changes. So those things are going to come out. And what we see in the way that people express themselves, we can also tell by the way they move. That when they walk or when they speak, they're going to reflect environment. That's no draft. It's about as serious as I'm going to get for the whole thing. So you've got to go, yeah.
I'm also really aware of time, so maybe, I think it is after 12, so maybe Kiora, last question.
Just a quick, and you'll probably be, I'm not on shaky ground here, but epigenetics, is that a form of, or a branch of science where the way we think can alter our genetic or our DNA? Is that what's happening? And if that's so, then obviously we are a draft, because our humanity, our thinking ability, our questioning, our consciousness can alter the body that we're in.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The environment, everything outside of our DNA can influence our, I think as Jeff, I already said, can influence the way genes are expressed. So, I mean, the way I think about it is our genes are like an on-off switch, and epigenetics is like the dimmer. And so the things in our environment, whether we're happy or sad, hormones that are floating around our body can influence our health and well-being, and that's the whole exciting world of epigenetics. It's very hard to measure and understand, but we know it plays an important part in health and well-being.
And so therefore we can focus on our maunga, on our ara, on the stars to help decide how we express through that epigenetic concept, can't
These
we?
are very strong arguments. I'm pleased you brought these up. From this perspective, I would also agree, because I think what we're seeing is that I've given you some bloody gems today, I have to say. But here's one more. Does anybody tell me why, when Māori stand up, they say, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa? Why do they say it 3 times? Because I greet your physical presence, I greet your intellectual, psychological presence, and I greet your spiritual presence. Now what happens in this space is that the body is not the draft, the mind is. I think we just won it with that one.
That's it. I think it is.
Is that the next debate? The mind
that
is.
This afternoon.
I think wonderful conclusion. Not that there is any conclusion, no winning, no losing, but a wonderful kind of resonance in the room for lots and lots of food for thought, the body and the mind. Thank you.
The conversation was the winner on the day.
Kia ora.
Thank you.